up, everybody? We're back. Another brand new episode of the Last Way podcast. We go over topics such as UFOs, conspiracies, cryptids, nerd stuff, and pretty much everything under the paranormal umbrella. You can find us on YouTube, obviously, our Wix blog, which is we're trying to get that updated every week with new articles and new posts, Facebook and Twitter as well. Thanks for listening and welcome. Today's topic is kind of a continuation of this little series we're doing, just kind of what's going on, catching up on the news from the last couple months, just getting everybody caught up on news you probably may not have heard. Some stuff you may have, but I try to stick to stuff that's outside of the mainstream, and we throw a couple fun, weird news things in at the end. So, just to dive in, it has kind of been quiet the last couple months or so, which is why we have not really done one of these in a while. So, we'll be catching up, basically, going to get us to July with this episode. First and foremost, there's still plenty of issues regarding the vaccinations, with people getting sick. Um, they just released an official article, basically from the World Health Organization, saying that teens and young people who take the vaccine some people are seeing some heart inflammation, which is never good. But at least they finally came out and said, hey, you know, obviously this vaccine that we never tested on humans except for when we gave it to you could cause some issues, and that's what we're seeing. And people like myself and others that are those conspiracy theorists that people never listen to, I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure I'm about 100% accurate for the 2020-2021 conspiracy season. I'm pretty sure we haven't missed anything. But again, it all depends on if you want to read, if you want to look outside the box, if you want to cut your TV off and look past, what they're trying to show you and find out what's really going on. That's all it takes. I mean, pick up and read a book, go to a website that's not Yahoo or Google, and find some news. That's really all it is. But deaths are starting to pop up, as well as multiple cases of blood clots and some other random complications. A video was released online in May or early June, showing a meeting, and it was just sent to me just haphazardly. I didn't really see where, but it appeared to be a town hall or a government meeting regarding the vaccines. And apparently, there were multiple companies where the animal testing of the vaccines was halted due to the number of animals that was dying. So that's crazy, right? So this means that, as expected, that those who got the vaccine are the actual human trials. And it's still too early to tell the true cause and intention of the vaccine and what it does to humans. And that's what inside I'm struggling with here. Myself, my friends, people in I don't know how you would say it, the conspiracy community, I guess, your mainstream podcasters, your mainstream radio people, we're all trying to figure out what is really going on, because it's not, the government just doesn't give you out free medication and all this free stuff, and they're having lotteries for people to win vaccinations. They're giving away beer and alcohol for people who get vaccinations. I mean, it's absurd, and that tells me that no one actually wants it. Like, if everyone really wanted it and there was lines out the door, like they're really saying that they're supposed to be, then they wouldn't have to auction off vaccines for someone to get them. I mean, it's just, there's so much going on behind the scenes that it's hard to keep up with what the actual probable truth is. Some people are still saying that it's going to work with the 5G and do something to our physiology. Well, dismissed this at first. There are more and more reports popping up of nanotech and gene editing software with the spike proteins that are apparently in the vaccine, and that it just seems that there is something in this vaccine that's going to do something to our bodies, and it's not good. And whether it's working with the 5G or not, either way, it's not good. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just some random dude sits at his computer and records podcasts and reads. I'm nobody. I don't have any doctorate degrees or anything, but something's not right. You know, something's not right. That's all I'm gonna say. But Also, very interesting note. I don't know if I've had some type of awakening or whatever they call it these days, but I'm really seeing a lot of hidden messages in the media these days, and a lot of it does regard what's happening and what's going on. But for instance, why I'm opening up to the 5G vaccination connection is something I just saw the other day. Verizon is actually giving people new 5G phones if they bring in and turn in their non 5G phones. So maybe I'm not up to date on certain things, but Verizon should make they should make the same amount on a contract whether you have 4G or 5G. So there has to be some incentive for them to forego the price of a brand new 5G phone just to get you onto the 5G network. You see what I'm saying? It's very sus. It's very sus. They're just like, here, take this brand new piece of technology, and of course, you got to get into some kind of contract or something. But still, companies don't do that. Companies don't say, hey, forget this, absurdly priced $1,000 phone if you just come with us. I mean, that's ridiculous. So there's definitely something there. There's also a lot of reports coming out of how Dr. Fauci had, they're coming out now that Dr. Fauci knew more than he said. He was actually, as a lot of people that weren't listened to said, he was definitely involved in the lab where the virus was released. There was a whole slew of emails. I briefly saw some of the topics that they were discussed. Basically, he knew a lot. He was involved in it. Everything that we've been saying, everything that people have been banned from Twitter and Facebook for saying is legitimate. He knew it. And actually, there's a, I don't have it pulled up. I should have had it pulled up. I didn't really know I was going to go off on this rant here. But Dr. Fauci, that last name and what he did is very similar to again, I don't remember the era. It's very, very long time ago. But this magician, alchemist person called Faust, who sold his soul to the devil, or basically sold his soul to be powerful and to be able to do black magic and stuff like that. Again, I'm paraphrasing. You'll have to look it up. Look up Faust, and it's very ironic that the story is very similar to Dr. Fauci, and it's very similar. It's very strange. You have to look it up. If I can find some connections to it, I'll post it on Facebook. It I have notes that go with the shows, but sometimes something just clicks in your head, and you're like, "Oh man, I wish I had it pulled up." But look up Faust, the magician, or Faust the alchemist, or whatever you want to pick, and then just think about Dr. Fauci in modern times. It's scary. It really is. But it seems, just don't watch the news. Listen to your local conspiracy guy for the actual news. That seems to be where all the truth is. And it's Pride Month right now. It's June. So a bunch of companies are painting their logos with rainbows to try to boost sales for a month. All the streaming services have, of course, released their multiple LGBTQ shows and whatever. Now, it needs to be noted, and I am 100% saying this, and anyone who knows the show, is a fan of the show, has been on the show, they know that we fully support everyone doing your own thing, whatever makes you happy. Have one wife, have it be a man or a woman, have four wives. We don't care. As long as you're not harming other people, you do whatever you want and be happy with yourself. However, I do feel a lot of what we see with TV and movies, Netflix, HBO, my goodness, HBO Max is terrible now, and Netflix is the same. But it's kind of propaganda, and whether it's the LGBTQ agenda, whether it's every new show has to have at least this is the list that it seems like every new show has one gay or bisexual character that is sexually promiscuous. At least one, if not all of them, are sexually promiscuous. One trans character who has no idea who they are, and it's usually a black character, which I think is interesting. And extra points if they are all, again, sexually active, young, and I mean, it's always like high school kids or young looking college kids. I mean, it's absolutely insane. I've never seen anything like it. Even though the LGBT community is very small, it's a small minority, they are very overly represented in the media. And I'm not going to ramble on why this is. I actually think I should do an episode on propaganda and things that we don't recognize. And again, don't be that person. We support everybody. Releasing black movies during Black History Month and war movies around July 4th, it's the same thing. It's all propaganda. And you look for things. That's why we have movies where you get a little bit of the truth. You know, you get your Matrix, your um, 2001: A Space Odyssey. You know, movies that kind of give you a little bit of nugget of the truth. But a lot of it, there's a reason they call it programming, like TV programs. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. And again, I have to keep saying this because I don't want to get banned. I love everybody. Anybody that's been on this show is open. I run a paranormal group outside of here, and it is filled to the brim with people. Everyone's different, okay? But there's a reason that they do this, and that's because that the minorities, your LGBTQ or other races, they're they're intentionally doing things to make you feel negative towards them. And it's just like I don't know the guy's name, but Simone Biles, I think it is, the gymnast, during the Super Bowl. I believe it was definitely the Super Bowl. There were four, five, six commercials with her and this extremely, I don't know if he's effeminate, but extremely, this guy dressed up in one of her leotards doing gymnastics, and she actually looked disgusted during the commercial. But it's the fact of them putting this in front of you during the most, macho thing in America. It's the Super Bowl party, big dudes hitting each other. I mean, it's kind of it's hard to explain. Again, I'm getting off on track. I'm getting off track. I'll do an episode on what I think is really happening, and you can make your own opinion. I don't mind being wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't think I'm closed-minded, but again, I think I'm just some people can kind of see behind the scenes. You can kind of see why they're putting this stuff out. And I am not a fan. I was actually just at Barnes and Noble the other day with a young family member, and in the elementary school kids section, in the middle of it is a huge pride display with homosexual books and all this stuff. Um, and it's just that's not the place. That's not the place or the time. When we grew up as kids, we were kids. We were worried about coming in before the street lights came on. We weren't worried about am I a boy or a girl, or should I be liking boys or girls at the age of 5, 6, 7. We were worried about. I just saw the other day an 11-year-old in the UK just gave birth. An 11-year-old, and one of the doctors was saying that because of the things that are in our food and our kids are getting heavier, that puberty is happening earlier. So this caused this 11-year-old to be able to have a child. And they didn't mention how weird it was that 11-year-old was out there, doing the deed. And I don't know. It blows my mind. I definitely need to do an episode on it because again, it's not just the LGBT community. It's because there's ways to do it that are. I'm trying not to dig myself a hole. You really just have to understand how open of a person I am and how much I really do try to love everybody, try to help everybody. So I'm done explaining that. But because the cancel culture is so crazy these days, with people wanting to, for you say the one wrong thing and you're done forever. But it'll be what it'll be. I've proven time and time again that I don't have any ill will towards anybody that's not harming others. But it's just like all the shows, all the movies with kids that are in these roles, these teenagers that are in these roles. I mean, it's dangerous. It's not good. But anyway, okay, scratch that. Back to the regular news. China, getting back on track with China, and this video, gosh, if that was more important, this recording would never get anywhere. I'm going off on certain communities and China. No one would ever hear this. But China is still working diligently to build their new space station, which you likely have not heard of. This is one of the biggest threats from outside this country, and likely you will never hear about it due to the Obama Biden links to China. You've probably also never heard that in 2013, China launched a satellite killer into orbit, destroying a satellite so completely that its rubble is still floating around in orbit. This technology, and that was the first test in 2013. Now they have basically satellite drones in orbit, and this technology could allow China to cripple any satellite within minutes, and we wouldn't be able to recover. They could move one of these guys in position, clamp our solar array on a U.S. GPS or U.S. comms or U.S. military satellite, and it's done for. It's done for. So that is extremely scary. But anyway, in 2013 they launched that, and they did that, and the whole world, all the governments of the world were up in arms about it. However, Obama did not want to cast a bad light onto China, so he didn't. So it was not allowed to go into the news. Now with Joe in the office, who he and his family have taken millions in China, in Chinese money, the Chinese could have this space station up and running before we even know it. And I believe they said it was 10 trips that they needed to make to finish the space station. And they're 2 trips in, I think, already. And that was, when I wrote this part, that was probably a month ago. That was probably in May. So, I mean, I haven't seen anything else about it. Obviously, it's probably been scrapped, and the news is not getting out about it anymore. But that should be up and running any time now. So, again, you have that. You have China with their own space station with these satellite killer drones and the ability basically to strike anything, anything, anywhere, shut it down. And that's really crazy. So there is that, obviously, to worry about. Also, apparently, Benjamin Netanyahu has been ousted from the Israel government, which is which was I would expect it to be bigger news, but I literally found it in a couple articles on one of my more underground sites that I check for news. But apparently he was ousted and put in, and they installed a more peaceful government who Palestine actually celebrated. They were really happy about it. Well, a few days later, Israel were back to bombing Palestine. And I mean, they did it for days, and they said that the siege will not be ended. So maybe they drew smiley faces on the new government rockets or something. I don't know, but they just kept on going. So, I mean, what a crazy world of everything that's going on. We just had a British ship not that long ago, and this is in June. So, a British ship just a couple days ago, probably last week, breached Russian waters and like deliberately breached Russian waters, and they had warning shots fired at them. They didn't turn until a bomber had to come by and do a warning bombing run in their path from Russia. So this has caused all kinds of more tensions than we can really probably imagine and that we probably know about. Um, One also important thing that I've heard, but I can't figure out why, is that America has seized something like 30 Iraq and Iranian websites, even news sites that are from that area. They've seized the sites and I guess shut them down because they were spreading misinformation. In air quotes, I did. That sounds super sus. Like just websites, like not Chinese websites that are spreading information. Like you notice there's been no more information about Huawei or Hawaii, however you say that tech thing that Trump was all about the spying, the TikTok, how it's all being used by China to spy on us. No mentioning of China, but now it's all Russia's the bad guy. Russia, Russia, Russia. And I don't know. I just thought that was very interesting that we all of a sudden are taking down Iranian and Iraq. Um, I don't know what Iraq websites. I would just say Iraq. I don't know what the other word for that would be. Um, but taking down their websites because they're spreading misinformation. I just found that to be incredibly interesting. I'd love to see what comes from that. I would like to know if there's more to that because that's obviously a shroud of secrecy that they're dropping over something, and I have no idea what it is as of yet. But damn, that's going to be interesting to find out because it can't just be misinformation. They wouldn't care. Like they have bigger fish to fry than some Iranian websites. Also, I did hear. I just saw just the other day that the Iranians would not allow the IAEA inspectors into their nuclear facilities. They said that the time frame was done and you're not allowed in anymore. So that's interesting to note that Iran is back to shenanigans with their government facilities and their reactors and their nuclear weapons. So the 2021 is really shaping up. It's almost July, and all of this has already happened. So, but again, that's the crazy world that we live in, and we're going to forget how awful all that is for just a minute, and we're going to look at some weird news. Oh, wait, scratch that. We have to go over something really important first. Sorry. John McAfee, however you want to say it, the antivirus guy that died, that allegedly suicided himself in prison, um, that allegedly had all this information, terabytes and terabytes of information on, public officials, politicians, people, Epstein level kind of shenanigans. And of course, he said that he's probably going to be murdered in prison. He doesn't plan on killing himself. And of course, he killed himself in a Spanish prison after saying that the food was good and he was doing well. And then it gets crazier. For some reason, the Navy decided they're going to detonate a 40,000-pound bomb out in the ocean to test the strength of one of their aircraft carriers. I, I guess that's what you do to determine the strength of your aircraft carriers, but I've never heard of them doing it before. Maybe they have, maybe we just haven't been told. But I feel like that's a pretty big ass bomb. And it just so happens that that bomb was big enough to cause earthquakes as far away as Florida. And then a couple of days after that, we had the collapse that most people have definitely heard about of that apartment building in Florida, where it just looked like it just imploded down on itself. Now, that's confusing and weird and interesting by itself. However, I am starting to see reports and things popping up online that in one of the apartments could have been used or could have been owned by McAfee or McAfee, however you say his last name, and it could have been used to store some of this data that he has on file, and that would be. I mean, I don't put anything past our government. I don't put anything past them at all. I'm surprised we're all allowed to have what freedom we do have. And if you go back in history and start doing your research, you'd be surprised too. But it's clear that there is some deep level shenanigans going on with these like child trafficking rings and things like that, and politicians and priests and big name celebrities. It is getting very serious, and it's crazy to me that the public isn't up in arms. Finally, we're seeing a little bit of fight back in Canada, where am on board with these people burning down Catholic churches, as long as no one's inside, of course. But you burn those churches down because they're finding um, Catholic-run schools where they had, a bunch of, native children and stuff like that, and there's these mass child graves, and they found two or three of the schools that have mass children's graves that are Catholic run, and I stand by 100% fact the Catholic Church is still controlling a lot of the world today, and they are the most evil thing in the world today. They are the embodiment of the Antichrist. Whether it's, you go with what the Bible says, what Nostradamus says, to expect a person that's the Antichrist, but the embodiment of the entire Catholic Church, everything that they do is Antichrist. Every bit of it. The upside down cross, because some guy was hung upside down. Okay, that's Antichrist. I'm not going to get into it. That's way too much. That would be a 2-hour episode by itself. Don't even get me started. But either way, these people up in Canada are like burning down churches and demanding, answers for what's happening or for what has happened in the past. And I don't blame them. That's disgusting. That's horrible. We should all be demanding answers for what the Catholic Church is doing and for what they have done for fucking centuries, for a long, long time. This isn't new. This isn't this isn't new at all. I mean, they've been corrupt and evil for as long as I've been able to read history books, as far back as I can go. They're ordering executions. They're saying who can be king. If you donate enough, they're hiding information, etc. They are the worst thing in this world. So I got off on a weird tangent there from John McAfee, but again, it's all this stuff about these child rings and stuff like that that's coming out, man. I would almost prefer that the world rises up against that kind of stuff instead of just, angry at politicians. Like, let's go march in the street to tear down the churches and dismantle the church. Other churches, I'm all right. I haven't heard of, Baptist or Methodist preachers doing all that stuff that the Catholic Church has done. But I think it needs to be talked about. It needs to be discussed way more than it is. And everybody's hushed up. You would think China and the Catholic Church own the world, which is it's pretty probably possible. But um, anyway, that's all the mainstream end of days kind of news. Let's move on. Um, June was supposed to be. I heard a lot online about June being the month for disclosure, and I had a really good bet on it being the 24th because I had found some research where UFO researchers over the last 50 years or so that have gotten like too close with their stuff and had men in black encounters, basically telling them to stop or they'll be harmed. The ones that got too close, they ended up dying of strange circumstances, of course. But for some reason, it tended to be on June 24th a lot of the time. I just thought that would be an interesting day to take a bet on for disclosure. But it appears that we're still getting small leaks every now and then for alien disclosure. You had the Congress was briefed by the DoD, I believe it was, and they said that they can't explain some of these. I mean, they admitted that there's things in our airs that they can't explain. So that I guess is kind of disclosure. It's not the aliens landing on the White House lawn kind of disclosure like we all expect, but technically that's disclosure. I mean, we're basically saying even with our most advanced technology, we don't think that this is Russia or China. We don't know what it is. So technically, disclosure kind of did happen, but we're just sad because it wasn't spectacular. So anyway, okay, boom. Moving on to the crazy, interesting, weird news for the last month or so. Biologists in the Austrian Academy of Sciences in Vienna successfully grew a bundle of human stem cells into a tiny artificial heart the size of a sesame seed, and it could beat rhythmically. And it actually squeezed liquid in and out of its chambers. I thought that's pretty crazy. When I saw that, I was like, that's the size of a sesame seed and it worked? Are these scientists, man, they're doing some crazy stuff. NASA is requesting more than $11 billion in an upcoming infrastructure bill, including $5.4 billion just for the human landing system. So apparently, NASA, I guess, is getting. I thought NASA was black budgeted at this point because everything's basically being done by Musk and Bezos. And now apparently Richard Branson wants to get into space like July 4th. So I didn't even know NASA was doing things other than hiding the truth. That's the only thing I thought they were doing. They gotta be doing something for $11 billion. A new theory suggests that ancient fossils of animals originating from South America were found on the Antilles Islands off Central America got there by walking across land masses that have long since sunk under the sea, under the ocean. And I thought that was really cool. I mean, you love hearing stuff about that, and that actually ties into some articles I read just the other day. That, well, I read one and was told about the other one. Apparently, two new well, not human-related skulls were found, uh, hundreds of thousands of years old. One in Israel, which I thought was very interesting. I think one was in China, I think, but one was called the Dragon Man, and it was just due to where it was found. And the other one, I don't remember. I don't have it in front of me. Sorry, that's my bad. But it was found in Israel, which I thought was really interesting. Um, that's the first human remnant, like missing link type kind of remnant. I think they've discovered in Israel, so that's pretty fascinating. Let's see. In Zimbabwe, police arrested a ghost burglar whose skeletal figure was all victims saw as they ran away terrified and left him to rob their homes, and identified him as a local man in a skeleton Halloween costume. Yeah, that. I just had to throw that one in. Solar weather forecasters warn that solar storms are back as the sun began a new 11-year cycle, which will peak in 2025, wreaking havoc across the world's power grids. Which, especially in America, we haven't done much to prepare for them. It's actually tying in with what I was talking about earlier. A lot of the stuff we use for our power grid, transformers, boxes, wires, etc., guess where it's made? China. So if we're hit with a CME or a solar storm or any of that shenanigans, or an EMP, obviously that would be bad too. But if we're hit with any of that and our system goes down, it will be probably years if we even are allowed to get up and running again. So that's very interesting. And actually, if you look at the Last Wave blog, we just we just put up something regarding the Carrington event, which is something that happened in the 1800s where we were hit with a massive solar storm that was so powerful it actually fried the telegraph lines, and it fried them so badly that the people that were running the telegraphs in the office were actually shocked, and sometimes some offices even reported fires, like paper caught fire due to the amount of energy expelled during this situation. So I thought that was really cool. The whole article is really good, and it talks about what would happen today, which is horrifying if we got hit with an EMP or a CME of similar power. CME is a coronal mass ejection. For those who don't know, it's basically a big old storm that comes out of the sun, hits us with a bunch of waves. But I definitely recommend reading that article. I'll try to put it up on our Facebook page as well if you don't have a link to the Last Wave blog as it is. Let's see what else we got. Researchers in the Ecuadorian Andes discovered a new species of terrestrial frog and named it why did I even put this in there? Pristimantis Led Zeppeliner, or Led Zeppelin's rain frog, after the iconic band. I don't know. I get Ecuadorian Andes. Maybe they just got some Led Zeppelin stuff. I don't know. That's kind of random. But a 26.5 million year old skull found in northwest China has been identified as a species of hornless giant rhino, one of the largest mammals ever, reaching 20 tons in weight and a shoulder height of about 15.7 feet, or about the height of the largest modern giraffe, towering above today's 10-foot rhinos. That's that's big as hell. Now that I think about that and read that again, that's as tall as a giraffe at the shoulder. What kind of animal would that even look like? My God. Moving on. Fata Morgana mirages are popping up in England apparently, with an entire city skyline appearing above the water off the coast of Portsmouth, and about 65,000-ton carrier HMR Prince of Wales looking like it was airborne off the coast of Devon. Now, that's pretty interesting, especially if you've ever seen the video from China a number of years ago about the city in the clouds. And if you haven't looked it up, it's a very famous video. Just look up China city in the clouds. It literally looks like a weirdly geometrical city in clouds. Like it doesn't look like a mirage of any kind. It looks like a geometric, like very square, weirdly shaped city in the clouds. And there are actually ancient reports, including biblical texts, that describe a city in the clouds, so to speak. And this city seems to be seen whenever there's either a great change or great issues going on in the world. I don't remember which prophet was taken up that he saw the city. I'm not going to make myself sound bad, but one of the prophets in the Bible was taken up into the air and he saw this great city, so on and so forth. So they're saying that this city or cities like this appear from time to time in times of great strife or importance. So this could be a giant test. That could have been a giant test for the Blue Beam project. Um, who knows? Maybe that's kind of what people were expecting whenever they thought of disclosure, was that they're going to fake an alien invasion to try to bring us all together, yada yada yada. Something along those lines. Again, getting a note saying that the government really just has no clue what they're doing wasn't exactly what we hoped for. Uh, Again, if you're probably listening to this after June 24th, given the fact that it's past June 24th when I recorded it. So I was definitely wrong about that. But there has been a lot of chatter this month regarding disclosure again. So guess we'll see. But uh, another thing I found interesting about this month going on disclosure was Fortnite, the video game. Now, bear with me, okay? This will make sense in a minute. The new season of Fortnite just released early in June, around the 8th, and it's titled Invasion. And is basically all about an invasion by aliens, but it's also a lot of we should be partying and we should be really happy that they're here and we should be very accepting of them. Now, while most people say this is a kids game, yada yada yada, not exactly. It's actually a very massively popular game and one of the biggest games as far as revenue streams. I mean, it's a huge, huge, huge game worldwide. It's right up there with Call of Duty and Minecraft and things of that nature. So it's not exactly a kids game anymore, and it's played by more people than plenty of other top tier games. It's played by people every single day. So if you want to disseminate some info, especially to the younger crowd, this is a perfect way to do it. This is a perfect way to do it. And it's also interesting to note that their last season, you can look up the video. I don't remember what the title of that season was, but the video was basically in the center of this map. There was this huge giant lotus in the sky, and it was opening up and it was flashing a bunch of energy and a bunch of different colors, and it was all like a very big awakening. And there was some symbolism, some things that people don't really recognize. There was this great big spire in the middle of the map, and this pine cone shaped thing at the top of it, and it basically it consumed that pine cone shaped hardened around this lotus and consumed it and basically shut it off. Now, throughout history, and I guess I'm going on more rants here than I need to, but throughout history, you'll see things like the medical staff, uh, an imagery with the two snakes around it, and other places. Hitler actually had images of the pine cones, and the pine cone is thought to reference your third eye, your pineal gland, because it's shaped kind of like a pine cone. And the two snakes are interesting. That's kind of runs into DMT and what you see, when you look into these underworlds, shamanic traditions, and that kind of thing. So it was very interesting to me that they had a big spire, which is your spine, and then this pinecone thing basically consuming or holding in this, spiritual lotus awakening thing. And it was very interesting. But that was last season. This season's all about aliens and things like that. Also, I did see a preview for a movie called Invasion, obviously, regarding an alien invasion. However, I saw it like a week ago, a week or two ago in June, in the middle of June, and the damn movie doesn't come out until October. So why would you preview this in like mid-June? Um, Another one I thought that would have been good for my 24th date is the fact that Amazon Prime Day Prime Days were on the 21st and the 22nd of June, and that would have given them a massive cash influx just before the 24th. And it's the first time in the number of years, I think I looked back 4 years, it's the first time in at least 4 years that it was on those days. So that was really super interesting. But yeah, obviously that did happen. So, but a couple like the day after that, and then the 26th, there was like again there was some stuff trickling out, different stories, different reports were released. So technically, disclosure again did kind of happen. It just wasn't with a bang like we were hoping. But that's pretty much all the news. This episode has gone way longer than I expected. I took way too many rants, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening to me ramble on and on about stuff that I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. Stuff that I think you should probably know, and stuff that should at least be discussed. But thank you again for listening. I'm going to leave it right here. 40 minutes is more than enough for a news update. Thanks always for listening. Like and subscribe. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter. We're really active on the Last Wave blog. Again, really fantastic blog post about the Carrington event and what would happen today if a coronal mass ejection hit us dead on. Really fascinating, interesting information that everybody needs to know because that's not something that's talked about enough. You can basically call that an EMP as well. And I've been listening to stuff and reading books for them about EMPs for years now, and I'll give you one scary thing that no one talks about. If we are hit with an EMP, then every single plane that's flying in the air over wherever it's hit is going to shut off. And you're not going to hear anything. Likely, you won't hear anything at all because everything that's electronic is more or less going to be shut down. And then all of a sudden, you start hearing like, "Whoo," like as planes just start falling out of the air. That crap is scary. Or how the fact that if we're hit with an EMP, just like it did with the telegraph lines during the Carrington event, an EMP would basically fry our power lines and send so much energy through them, it would basically explode every transformer on all of the power lines for the most part. So you'll have massive amounts of tiny explosions going everywhere across, if not the half the country, then all of the country. So again, people really need to be read up on that, and they need to see where we are with our defense against a power grid failure because it's pretty sad. It is pretty sad when you start looking into it. But we'll leave all that you know scary stuff for another day. Hope everybody's good. Hope everybody keeps doing well. Uh, if you take the vaccine, just take care of yourself. Do your research as much as you can. And that's really all I got for today. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next episode.